Cherry. Patricia Arquette. Executive produced, the writer of the show. Give it up for Dan Erickson. Adam Scott. The gentleman who directed the finale you just watched, the great Ben Stiller. Should we wait for this Trammell?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, seriously, he is, I know, sometimes Trammell goes off the grid.
Is he currently off the grid right now?
Well, I remember like after the, at the end of the first season, he had trouble dropping the character. Yeah, well, remember like we found him working at like an office supply store in like
He was at an office supply store. I read about that. It was on Reddit. He was at an office supply store.
Yeah.
He was ghosting.
Yeah. So sometimes, I don't know, maybe he's just decompressing or something, or maybe he's still in character.
Alright, so I guess for now, Trammell is not gonna join us. Luke, when you guys did episode 1 of the show, did you think one day we're going to be here having a marching band go through? Totally, yeah, of course. I have a first question just for. Pretending you don't know answers and hiding things from people. Like everybody knows everything up to date right now. Anybody?
For me, I've come to build my whole identity on secrecy and not being able to open up to anybody because that would open me up to spoilers. So now I don't know. I don't even know who I am anymore.
Right. Now your secrets. Who are you?
No one.
Unbelievable.
Thanks, Mom.
I really think that everyone's on board. I like having all the secrets. I like you all being confused and scared.
I'm going to start the questions with give it for Ben Stiller, everybody. The tone of this show is incredibly unique.
By the way, Ben S.
This is so confusing. Who's who? You can probably figure it out. The tone of the show is incredibly unique. It's very hard to even compare it to another show, which is probably why we all love it so much. It's in its uniqueness and how special it is. How did you come up with the tone, and how do you explain the tone to a new actor coming in or to a new director coming in to direct this? And tell me how good my questions are after I ask them.
Incredible. Well, the tone comes from Dan Erickson's, honestly, like the process of making the show created the tone of the show because Dan had written it, and that was we all were, excited by what he had written, and then the designers, everybody who's here, we had mentioned before, Jeremy Handel, Jessica, everybody, we all were inspired by his words and then started to sort of exchange ideas on what it could be. But I think the real tone of the show was defined when the actors came in and started doing the scenes, because the reality of what's going on in that world has to be believed by the actors, and then the audience can believe it. So that to me was when I started to see, like when I saw John Turturro, I think it was in, episode 3 of season 1 of the Perpetuity Wing, where John told you about, how important it was to take her to the Perpetuity Wing, and he believed it so much, and I thought, oh my God, John Turturro, I really believe him. Yeah. So the audience is going to believe him too. And the humor came out of what I think was there on the page, and then it's evolved. And when people come on the show, they've watched the show, maybe directors and people who, have seen what we're doing. But honestly, I think it's sort of there for interpretation. And if you cast the right people, both, as actors and in different roles on the show, people are going to bring their own personal ideas to it and their idea of what the tone is, and that helps create what it is in its own.
That's correct. That's the correct answer. When you brought up humor, and I think I wanted to ask this question as a fan of the show. When do you choose to do a big comedic moment? Because this drama has moments of Milchick dashing out of the room after Dylan, or like you killing someone by mistake as your enemy, or like the Chicago. Whose idea was to put the Michael Jordan version of the Chicago Bulls intro in? So are there episodes where like those moments are so comedic, and oftentimes when you see dramas or suspense things like this, you don't feel that. How do you choose when to insert that? Is there some episodes where like we did that too much, we should back up? What does that feel like? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many moments like that where, we'll modulate it after the fact. Honestly, I think the Drummond murder I originally pitched as a joke. I was like, we were really tired, and I was like, maybe just Severs accidentally kills him. And Adam was sitting across the table and was like, that's what we're doing. Like,
yes,
and it was.
I mean, I think things come up. I feel like, that you don't want to like kind of try to plan stuff out. But first of all, just watching it, I just have to say, for all of us, I speak for all of us, in that watching it with this audience has been one of the most special experiences I've ever had connected to the show. Hear those laughs, right? You watch it maybe with a group of people or something, but we don't ever actually hear real laughs. So to hear like a laugh, and, like when Shamel runs out of the room, or those things, so exciting,
so fun
for us to be able to see what connects, and people pick up on the smallest things, which is great.
Oh my God, this is a great transition. Dan, I have a question for you. Dan Arison, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Is there a small writing choice that you made that ended up influencing the show in a far bigger way than you thought? And the inverse of that, if my question is stupid, is there a path that you almost took that would have changed everything, but you guys diverted?
Oh wow, that's.
Or just make up your own question.
No, that's a really good question. I think that it's fantastic. I will say that the character of Milchick specifically was a character that in the pilot I was like, okay, he's funny, but he's going to be sort of Cobell's right hand, and I don't know if we'll carry him through. I don't know if he'll become like a major character. Get me out.
Crazy that he just had a marching band moment.
Yeah, but the line where he says, I think it was the line like, "You and Petey were one of my favorite office friendships." I think that was used in the audition. I could be wrong, but it was one of those, and it was a line that Trammell read so perfectly that suddenly I was like, oh, that's Milchick. And now he's one of the most important characters on the show.
Wow. You had a temp job. We don't have to go too deep. Yes. What were you doing when you literally thought of the idea of this show, just to inspire everybody in the audience?
I was working at in a basement office of a small windowless basement office of a door factory.
Anybody working in any door factories here? No, that could be the next.
Where if my old bosses are here?
No.
They're gonna cap me like Lincoln.
I have one more question before you talking about Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln? Oh, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, that's too fucking soon, dude. That's crazy. I just heard that Apple is not going to do a season 3 now. This is crazy. I'm so sorry to the 3,300 people here. Last question, Dan. I read interviews about moments of the show that you have envisioned since the very beginning. One of those was the outdoor episode where they go on retreat. Are there things this season that were in your head? Or how about this? This is an even better way of saying it. Are there things you haven't done yet that you have those visions of that you know are going to occur? You don't have to say what they are, but are there plans, the seeds that have been planted before you started writing this that you haven't gotten to yet?
Yes.
Yes.
So, multiple.
Multiple. Don't say him. It's not worth it. Adam Scott. Serious question to start off. How much did you work on your dancing in the season 1 party scene? Because I'm trying to find a nice way of saying it. The contrast between milkshake dancing and being so goddamn silky smooth. And then we go to Mark S. I was going to say Adam Scott, but that was Mark S. dancing. So I'm just honest.
So what are you saying?
My question is, how much thought process went into that? Since you're, I really want to know. I have a real question that makes you use your brain in the next one. And this one's like, because I've watched that, and people watch it, and they're just going nuts, and then it's just, my man is going for it. So how much thought process going in that, and how many different versions of that did you do? And then I'll ask you a real question where you can talk.
I don't know if there were other versions. I think it was the kind of thing where I didn't really think about it because I was like, no matter what, this is going to be embarrassing. So I'm just going to wait till we're shooting my single where I have to do it by myself, and I'll come up with something, and it's going to be embarrassing. And then whenever I did it, then this. Especially when I started doing. Do more of the thing where you're scared.
A lot of people are calling it the new Elaine dance. Adam Scott from Party Gun, another question for you. I want to know, sincerely, I texted and called you the second after I saw the finale. I am blown away by the acting. Everybody is so good in the show. The quality of acting. With the camcorder. For me, when it started, I was like, "Oh, how are you going to keep this interesting for 5 minutes?" And you just had me for every word. I could not wait for the other version of you to pick it up. And I know that's incredible acting, incredible writing, incredible directing, incredible editing. But what was it like to? I have a couple technical questions, but I want to know what it was like to do that scene. And then my assumption is you probably, when you did one side, you got to use that voice for the other. But who are you running lines with to play with yourself at the beginning?
I think that I made tapes in my apartment, or I made videos in my apartment on my phone, and maybe we used those at first.
Yeah, we were rehearsing. I know we had you record each side on your phone.
Yeah.
Right, so we had it.
And you had copies of that.
Yeah.
On the.
We were rewriting that scene.
Yeah.
Up until the Friday before we shot it on the Monday, and then we said we had to stop so that Adam could learn the lines.
Yes, no, but we rehearsed it over and over. We went through it and we're massaging it. Yeah, it changed. We were changing it right up to the last minute, and then doing it. I think that while we were doing it, it was something I was dreading because, like you said, it could really just not work. And I think the key was that I was trying to do is provide an array of options. So when Ben and Jeff are cutting it together, they could do, kind of have different ways to go and ways to kind of make it feel like a conversation. And they really got the scene together.
It was awesome. The scene fun. Because you got to do it right next to each other, do you have, this is like someone asking your favorite characters, which I think is the worst question to ask, but do you have one version, the in or the out, you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to play this version again? Or no, to you both are exciting, it doesn't matter. You're like, I can't wait to play out here again.
I guess in that scene it was I was interested in the moment that Audi Mark like kind of fucks up.
Yeah.
And pushes a little too hard and so just a little condescending. I mean, not he gets her name wrong, but also he's just a little.
Yeah.
And that was fun to kind of find that. Yeah, I love it.
Britt Lauer, everybody.
What's your favorite letter? No. Okay. Okay. What is your favorite letter in the alphabet?
B for Ben.
Thank you very much. Okay. I didn't read. I heard that you take 11-minute naps right after lunch. True, false? We're going to fly through this, okay? Is there anything else that you do in preparation for these characters that you do every time in a precise manner? And I'm asking if there's a different preparation for Helena, Helly, or even for Helena pretending to be Helena.
Actually, Zach's going to answer all of my questions.
Zach Cherry, do you know the answer?
I have a bag of trail mix in my pocket.
Zach Cherry is sponsored. You want to do your commercial?
For Brit, it's really about, the body.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. We'll keep moving. Here we go.
That's why I forgot to introduce him.
Zach, because you know who this. You are sponsored by Trail Mix, correct?
Sun and Sweet Trail
Here we
Mix.
go.
Nuts and seeds, roasted and salted. Net weight 1 ounce.
This is great. He does the Severance podcast one time. He starts doing commercials anytime he starts talking. Right?
We do have something significant to say.
I would hope so.
Which is that Zach and I have a podcast. We actually do. It's about food, and we often, before takes, this relates, we talk about food. And something interesting is you'll notice in season 1 that Heliar likes eggs. Helena doesn't like eggs.
That was my next question. Can I ask you a specific thing just from the turn of you playing a character, playing another character, to me was so exciting, and then also I was like, fuck you guys. But it was like, it just made me so, I was like, oh my god. If people were to look back at your performance when you were playing Helly, what could people look at now if they went back to see, like, oh, you're tipping it off a little bit. Maybe you didn't see it the first watch because you weren't aware of it. But if you watch now, I was doing some cool shit that now, some of that. Don't give that to Zach. Please don't give that to Zach.
Eggs.
No. Look how big this stack is, Zach.
No, I feel like our viewers are the best detectives in the world because they found all of them.
What's one of the big ones that you kind of did, or one of the ones that you're proud of?
One that we kind of talked about a lot was the computer, turning on the computer. And we went back and forth. We filmed it where she got the computer turn on button quickly, and then we got one where she had to kind of search for it. And remember, Ben, we were like, is it too much?
Yes, I do remember that. And my favorite little Helena moment is in the tent with Irving. Yeah. And that's one where there was debate about, oh, is that getting away? And I was like, oh, that's like the most amazing acting moment I've ever seen. But at that point, it was sort of like, I think even if people were onto it, that was what was interesting about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was right kind of before she is exposed to anyways. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
right. But I think that whole thing, like people picked up on, for me watching, I was really surprised how quickly people started to question that. But I think it was also a great sort of thing to debate, you know, for audiences.
I think one of the things when we think about shows that we like this is we love debating, we love trying to figure out what's happening. It's almost like me when I watch Magic. I'm so desperately trying to find out what it is, but I don't ever want to find out. Like I was like, oh, well, no, he does that trick, but I don't ever want to find out. But enough about me.
That's
Sarah
why it's so
Bob.
fun doing magic tricks.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Sarah, true or false, right now is your college spring break and you're missing it to be here with all of us. Are your friends in Cancun or something like
They
that?
are.
It's always Cancun. I don't know why. It's always Cancun.
Cooler than.
Okay, makes sense. You were 15 years old when you got this role. Unbelievable. What was it like for your character to have authority over actors that are twice, 3 times, 12 times your age?
Gosh, so scary. Oh my gosh, they're so cool. And like John Turturro was so tall. Staring down. I'm like, oh my gosh, so scary.
Okay, so it was like when you get in there and you're doing scenes, or if you're talking back to Milchick, who is your boss, was there, I mean, you have such confidence in this show for someone so young to come in with such confidence, and also like for someone who just gets thrown in the mix like that, that's an extraordinary acting moment, which you should be very, it's pretty incredible. So, I have one other question that I was thinking about, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, or maybe you do. If not, you can invent it. But what do you think your character's like when she's done with her internship? Because she would probably be in high school, right? Should I shut up? Do you think about that stuff, like before you're doing these things? Take me through that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wonder what she would be like if she was just like a normal high school student and she wasn't at Lumen. I think she would probably be like in the band, like the theremin still.
Yeah.
And, she had friends her age, questionable, maybe she should learn some social skills. Yeah, I think she would have a good time. Not
Well, happy spring break. Happy spring break. Decent lobster? Your standalone episode is such a special episode of television. Yeah, and the director and the cinematographer.
Yeah, Jessica, are you here?
Yeah, no, Jessica's correct. Yeah. I'm in love with that episode. It is such a difficult task to come in and play. How many versions of yourself did you play? Do you know the exact number of how many different Innies? How many different Innies that you played of yourself?
well, I guess there was like 5. The dentist, Christmas, the airplane, and Miss Casey, and then Jen.
So what do you do as an actor before entering those rooms to give each character a different specific, a different feel, so they feel like different characters?
I feel like there's so many fingerprints on all of those Innies, like the work that hair and makeup and the production design, like all of that helps, you know, and the circumstances of it and where she's feeling that tension, it's like, I mean, so much of the work is done for you because of the amazing attention to detail that the crew and, you know, the leaders of the show put into the circumstances. And so you just have to walk in there and sort of be. So I can't really take so much credit for it because, you know, even the attention that went into the wigs and the costumes, it was extraordinary.
It's amazing. episode with, first of all, the moment where Audi, Mark, and Gemma Audi meet, and we finally have that wonderful moment, that beautiful moment that I feel like I didn't realize how desperately I wanted it, and then how you so quickly took it away from me. How dare you? But I want to know about that final scene between those three characters. What it was like for you to film that. What it was like for you to flip between finding the love of your life that you've been missing, and then switching people, and then having the other love of your life behind you. What it was like for Helly. I'm assuming it's Helly. Maybe I should shut up. I think it's Helly. Yeah. I'll say Helly, and we'll shut up. And then so for that last moment, what it was like for her to see the love that he had for someone else, and then him kind of letting it go away. If you guys could talk about that, but with not a lot of time, that would be great.
I guess on the surface it looks like a triangle, but if you know me, I love talking about shapes. It might be a tetrahedron or a hexagonal prism.
Love it.
And so, to add complexity, maybe in that last moment, Heliar is, it's love at first sight, seeing Gemma across the hall.
Unbelievable. And then just have to take it, I guess. Unbelievable. And then what was it like for you, and then for you, Adam, to play so many different versions of finding and losing love in the span of what to us is minutes, but I'm sure that was a sequence of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was hard. It was exhausting. It was right at the end of the shoot, so we were all kind of depleted and tired, which was good for the scene, I guess. But it was heartbreaking because Deachin was really pounding on that door for hours and hours. And it was awful. It was awful to see her there, and what Gemma has come to mean to all of us and everything. It was just heartbreaking, but I think, for Amy Mark, at the end of the day, this is someone he doesn't know in that way, and he crosses that threshold, and the life might be over, he doesn't quite know, and he's madly in love with Helly, so he had to make a choice for a few different reasons.
What do you think your character saw when you see Mark as kind of having to make a decision? What do you think your character is even thinking? Because she has no idea what is going on in that moment. What did you feel banging that door? How are you trying to make sense of something that, to the viewer, we are understanding is so inside of, but for you, that character is having this first moment of understanding?
Yeah, I think initially she's just very confused, and then very quickly realizes that, he's probably gone through this procedure when she sees it. I mean, it all has to happen really fast, and then I think ultimately she's just trying to get through to him, like breaking through that barrier, but, sadly she fails.
Give it up for Jen Tulloch and Michael Church. Multi-camera sitting raising that baby. Coming this fall. It is coming this fall.
Or she represents NBC.
Oh, fantastic. Amazing. Great. All right, go ahead more. I'm going to start with Jen. Oftentimes to me, you feel like the voice of blunt sanity. The person who points the finger, says what she really means, and isn't quick to trust anyone. This makes I'm not an idiot. Great. Okay, so what do you think made your character finally trust Cobell, even though you are against everything she represents for 2 seasons?
I had a very angry cousin in my inbox asking me this very question.
Okay.
I don't think she does trust her. I don't think she trusts her as far as she can flick her. I think she's in a moment of abject desperation. When people say that if a parent sees their kid in danger, they could flip a car, I think this is her flip a car moment. watched Mark in danger. I mean, it's a bit figurative to her in season 1, but it becomes literal. And then I think she watches her kid get kidnapped and then unkidnapped, I suppose. But then when she finds out what she does about Gemma, I think she's just ready for blood. And so I think she knows it's this plan or no plan, and she just is flying on instinct alone.
I love it.
I have a question for both of you, and then Michael, I work for you. How do you think you guys met? How did
Oh, you're fine.
It's a funny story.
I can't wait.
It's at a tea party.
You're all put on with other people.
They seem so different and unique, and it feels like it works. Do you guys ever talk about that? Like, how did we meet, or why are we a couple, or stuff like that?
No. Now, behind closed doors, I think we talked about it a lot. I mean, one of the things that kind of drives me crazy is when people say, like, I don't understand Devin and Rick. Like, have you ever been to an airport and seen that met a couple in your life? You're weird. Opposites attract, right? Right?
I think of golden in time. I think there was probably a moment where maybe they did try a little harder to keep up appearances. But, you get to the point where you park in front of your apartment, and it's all over. They're well past that point.
Well, that's a question I had for Michael and Rick. And what do you think this character is like when he's totally by himself? I feel like we see a lot of scenes where he's putting on, for real, like when he's putting, like he's trying to, he wants to be liked. Would you say that's an attribute of your character?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I see him when he's around people desperately wanting to be liked and really trying to stand out again. What do you think this character is like when he's by himself? And there aren't those other people to try to like turn towards him and be like.
I mean, I actually think he's pretty anxious and worried, and he cares a lot about what people think of him. And like that scene at the end of season 1 where he says to Mark, like, how I come across. I think he's actually probably kind of lonely, and I think he's like trying to fill a real void. Episode 7 where we see Rickon and Gemma and Mark and Devin having dinner, and you see a much more at ease Rickon, and Rickon and Mark really kind of getting along, and everybody, you really get a peek into Rickon and how much the Gemma's death sort of shifted them. Learn about him delaying the laws. That's right.
Zach Cherry, everybody. Self-proclaimed dream baby right out of the womb. I heard it. You call your dream, Good baby. Good baby, not dream baby. Understood. This is something. So we come from the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. We come from the same improv theater. I always get a strong. I am always rooting for comedians when they're in dramatic roles to fucking crush it. I get so excited when I see a comedian take a dramatic role and show everybody that we can do this too, and you've done an incredible job of proving that we can do this too. Do you look forward to the dramatic scenes? Are they stressful to you? What do you feel like when you have some? I know you're a zone, and I call it math sometimes when you're a comedian. You do comedic scenes like math. When you see drama, and it may not be like math to you. What is your feeling?
Yeah, it is a little stressful. I think especially stuff this season was stuff I haven't really been asked to do before, but the trust that I have in everyone on the show in terms of the scene partners and the trust that Ben directors, including me, to make it a lot easier.
I like it a lot. And then can you take me through the emotional scene of your Amy asking your Audi's wife to marry him, because that story is so beautiful, the paper ring is so beautiful, and then also the follow-up question to that is, how different sexually do you think your Amy is? And you can answer that in any way you want. And you can give full-on details. So the first part of the question first.
I'm pretty focused on the last
Yeah, of
one.
course.
What was the beginning?
First part of the question was, take me through the emotional scene of your Amy asking your Audi's wife to marry him.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, I think Amy is so naive that he thinks that's a real possibility that like this woman would come and live in a basement with his children. Yeah, he's being completely earnest, and I think this is the first time he's been in love, and it's kind of like anything seems possible. So for him, I think in that moment it feels like a real possibility, and then her who has lived in the world, it's so obvious that that's not a possibility, and there's that kind of immediate heartbreak.
My last question is, when you're writing a letter to yourself, you as an actor or you as a person, what do you feel more emotion doing? Writing, doing the VO, or receiving the letter? God, these are great fucking questions.
In terms of sexually?
If you don't mind. We'll start with the real answer, then you have to get sexual.
You know, I think receiving the letter. I think receiving it.
Yes.
That was an exciting challenge.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Give it up for Dari Olafson. I have so many questions for you. One of which is,
So misunderstood.
what is it like playing a character that is so shrouded in mystery? And do you have more information about your character than we, the audience, do? Like, do you know stuff that we don't do, or do you have to invent stuff while you're going? Because so little is known about your character. We see it through your actions, but tell me a little bit about that.
That's a great question.
Fuck,
And
yeah.
by the way, a lot of good questions.
Oh,
I think there's stuff that I definitely don't know. There's stuff that I think I know. Of course, I had conversations with Ben and the other directors and with Dan. But in the end, as an actor, you always have to bring a whole person. And especially when you're playing a smaller part, then you have to kind of bring the backstory and everything into it. So, yeah, I think, in many ways, I have my own opinion of who he is and what he represents. And, he's not the nicest person.
What do you think the realest version of him is? When he's attacking, you think that's really him, or do you think when he's restrained? Do you think he's a monster, or like what do you feel like he really is?
I don't think anyone's a monster. But, I think we get to see the real him when he confronts Mark in the hallway.
Yeah.
And I think he represents, he looks at certain people and he doesn't really consider them people. He is above them. He is better than them. And I think you see that. He despises some of the people he's working with, talking to. And, and that wasn't easy. I mean, I really love these people. and I was a huge fan of the show before I came on. And it's not, it wasn't fun to, especially with Mel. I mean, just again and again, we had these scenes where I was just being such a asshole. But that's also fun.
About the fight scene. Does it terrify me that I said fight scene and someone's like, fuck yeah! For Adam, for Dari, and for Gwen, my most important question will be for you at the end, so I need you to get ready for it, if possible. And we are together as one, and we are ready for it. Fantastic, but for right now, I need to know what that fight scene was like, because for someone who, I know I'm very skinny and Jewish, but I've done a fight scene too, and it's like, the thing that blew my mind was the hallways are so small. Like they're not, it's so, to do a fight scene in that small of a space, to me, in my head, I was like, and also this looked like it took days. So just so people who may not understand, because anytime there's stunts, anytime where an actor can get hurt, or anytime when there's blood and you have to redress or stuff like that, take us through what that fight scene was like for your characters, what that fight scene was like, and what it really takes to do something like that. And did I hope nobody got hurt, because everybody was great. Now, don't tell me if anybody got hurt. No one got hurt. But I just want to hear about that, if possible. And then at the end, of course.
Well, I think for me, like, basically the first thing we did was I slammed Adam into the wall for real.
Yeah.
And that was a bad thing.
On purpose?
No, it was, I fucked up the choreography.
It was not it was my fault. Because Dari was swinging me around into the wall, and I was supposed to get my arm up to kind of to kind of absorb the shock of hitting the wall. But my arm got caught behind, so I hit it with my head.
No!
And after and Ben came over, and I was like, I think I'm okay. And the first thing he said was like, are you okay? Everything? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be okay. He goes, well, it looked great.
What is it like for your character to make such a strong turn in that moment? What did that mean for your character? You have to do it again.
I loved the fight scene. I loved it. As I have said, I deliberately chose not to do anything involving any kind of combat after Game of Thrones. And then, unfortunately, one day I got a phone call from Ben Stiller. And he told me about this fight scene in Severance, my favorite TV show in the world. So I just said yes. And I found I still have a bloodlust.
So funny because then I'm thinking it's Brianna Tarth and Mr. Drummond beating up Ben Wyatt, which is so funny. One line from Parks and Rec when he's asking a question from Game of Thrones is maybe his fantasy. By the way, the marching man thing at the beginning, you crushed it. It was amazing. My nerdy question as a fan is how did you... Okay, of course. How did you tackle Milchick this season as compared to last season? Because this season I feel like he's juggling so many different emotions and responsibilities. So I'm so curious about how your character involved and how you just tackle him now when he gets so much more shit coming at him.
Well, he's moved up. He's in charge now. It's his fault. And what we see is that he's now in this new position of leadership. And we see how it sits on him. And just like most people who have dealt in middle management, you get so much more shit. And, you have to be able to run with it.
Do you feel like your character has an end goal? If he gets more serious and takes on more, do you think that Milchick is thinking like, man, I gotta get to here. I want to get to here. And you're just making your way up the ladder? Does your character think like that?
I think he's very ambitious.
Yeah,
You know, this is a man, from my perspective, that is in service of Lumen. He's committed to it. You know, what is interesting about this season is that we're starting to see a little bit of the cracks. We're starting to see more of his humanity.
Yes.
Because he's learning more about the company. You know, those paintings.
Isn't it crazy that someone had to draw those paintings in real life? That seems like a problem.
It's like nightmare fuel.
Because we don't see an in your outing version of you. We do see different versions of you as the cracks are coming. Everybody's such a great actor on the show, and it's like, but to see you start cracking, do you feel like there is a purest form of Milchick that we've seen? Is it when he is having one-on-one conversations and he is in charge? Is it when he is dancing and he looks like he's having so much fun? Or like, is it when he's sticking up for himself? Like, what do you feel like for you in those scenes? What do you feel like, oh, this guy, I feel like this is the guy?
I don't think we've seen it yet.
First season, because you're an executive producer on the show as well. So how much were you aware?
Did you hear that?
So how much time were you aware? And were you, while you're playing your character, did you always kind of know she was a genius?
Well, yes.
First of all, I do want to say your questions are really great.
Oh, great.
Yeah, there were things that these guys told me early on that I thought, oh, well, when is this going to come out?
Yeah.
And it took quite a long time. But yeah, there were things that were there. I didn't know some of the things to quite that extent, but from almost the beginning, you were telling me about her growing up in school, Egan's, and how this town was impacted, and Ether, and her mother, and the breathing tube, and a lot of aspects of it. So it was nice to get there.
Yeah. Are there things, don't say it, are there things that you know about your character that have been revealed yet? Please, obviously, don't say it. Are there things that again, don't say anything. Please don't say anything. Just say it. I just want to know yes or no, but not saying a word. I'm like, you still have that you're like, I know this, but we haven't gotten this yet?
I would, in real life, I try to be very honest.
Well, don't.
But character, I will lie, cheat, and steal, no matter what. Even if maybe I do know a whole lot.
That's right.
But I would lie to you about it. Don't count on me.
How did you feel about your character finally turning on Lumen? And what did it take? What was the final straw for your character to really make that change? Because
Did I? We shall see.
Okay, then this is a question I truly want to know. What do you think?
Too bad.
What do you think Cobell does for fun on her fun days?
Don't lie. Don't play with.
Mostly dolls.
Leave me alone. I bake cookies. I mean, not
She
he de-ices her stew?
You do. You de-ice Stu.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very inventive.
She seems really fun. Ladies and gentlemen, Gwendolyn Christie, everybody. What the fuck is happening with the goat? Second follow-up question. You don't have to say if you don't want to, but what the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening with the goat? No, you can't say.
Everyone's out to be a goat.
Everyone's a goat?
I think.
Okay. I do have a question though. When you're doing those scenes for a viewer, we are like, what is happening right now? Are you like that as you're getting the script in that moment? Are you feeling that as well, or are you were given enough information to be like, oh, okay, I know exactly why this is happening. I know exactly what this is about.
No. No. And I find a great freedom in that, actually. As someone that used to demand all of the answers, I found actually a huge liberation in not being given really anything at all. Genuinely, in a wide sense, and it's a great lesson for us all.
So you were a big fan of the show before you did the season?
Obsessed with the show. And I was so angry I wasn't in the show. Oh, but listen, I think I terrified you because I said it with such intensity. I meant it, and I mean it now. But when I watched season 1, I was my mind was blown by. I'd wait for my boyfriend to go to work, and then I'd shut the curtains, and I'd watch Severance at 11 a.m. on a Friday, and I'd say to the dogs, you've got to be quiet, stay in the room. Wow, that used to make noises, things on the screen. I don't know if that's deliberate, but anyway. So, and then I watched it again, because I was obsessed with it. And then I got obsessed with Adam Scott's hair. So I take pictures with my iPhone and zoom in to see if I can see a wig line or a wig
I think you just worked your way into their multi-cam sitcom. As a fan, because we're all fans of the show, what's some of the things that you nerded out with the most when you got to set? And you're like, oh my god, I can't believe it.
Oh, I was pathetic. I was reduced to the status of a sort of a fool. I was a gibbering wreck. I saw a vending machine and I got terribly overexcited. I really did. And then I couldn't really behave normally in front of, I mean, I can't anyway, but I couldn't behave normally in front of really anyone. And sort of swooning over Brit Lau. Trying not to have jelly legs around Adam Scott. Honestly, it does mean a huge amount to me because a show as original and fresh as this, with this amount of tangible passion and intelligence and real depth of heart behind it, is so rare. And I'm in awe of everyone involved in the show. And it is a dream. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of you for being here tonight. We'll never forget this. Amazing.
You guys are truly the last step in the creative process. The art and the theories and the discussion that you bring to it is truly to me, it's a massive part of what makes this show work. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I told Justin